Good afternoon. My name is Del Rodriguez, and this is Flabonga Monthrothacube I. Yes, it's ridiculously hard to say. And with me today, I have Tom Herbert. Hey, Tom, how's it going?
Hello. Yes, very well, thanks, Dale. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really, really good. Are you aware that you have beautiful dulcet tones? Like listening to you is nice. Have you heard that before? Oh, hello. I'm not sure if I am experiencing technical difficulties or Tom is experiencing technical difficulties. If anyone could hear me right now, I'd love for you to comment. That would be much appreciated. Um, in the unlikely event no one can hear me, I'm going to still keep talking because, I don't know, could be interesting. Oh, you're back. Welcome back.
Many apologies. I've turned everything off. Hopefully, that will keep the internet gremlins at bay.
Was that your side or my side? Because I kept on talking just to fill the dead space.
Nicely done. Yeah. No, it was definitely my side. Yes.
Okay, brilliant. Oh yeah, LinkedIn user. Don't know who it is, but Tom is frozen. Okay, well, first of all, I was saying, are you aware that you've been given, what, have people told you about your voice before? Are you aware it's a very nice voice?
I think the first time someone said anything about that to me, I was doing a part in my previous role at ICAW. I was doing a podcast,
Mm.
and I I think the studio manager described it as smooth as velvety hot chocolate, and I was like, "What?" Like, yeah, yeah. And so the podcast sort of became known as sort of Late Night Love with Tom, which I wasn't quite sure about really. But yeah, it was meant to be a sort of tax and accounting update. So yeah, we're meant to be exciting people about this stuff rather than lulling them to sleep. But you know,
I'm inclined to agree. You do have a very nice voice. It's very smooth, that velvet thunder that kind of tone. Um, First of all, thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it. Do you know, I'm often excited to talk to people on the show because of like just their experience in the background. But as I mentioned before, you are the first like journalist, and the reason why I'm excited to speak to you is because there's always a joke or comment on traditional journalism versus social media. And I kind of want to pick your brains about that, among other things. And as if you watched the show before, you probably know that I go on tangents. So the first tangent is, how is your Mandarin?
my Mandarin, wow. It wasn't bad when I lived in China. This is going back. So a quick potted history. I finished university in the early 2000s and did what I think anyone with a liberal arts degree usually does. Like, what on earth am I going to do now? Kind of bummed around for a couple of years and ended up in the finance department at a haulage company. And so another lady there was from Beijing. So I was like, oh, she started telling me about China, and I got interested in it that way. And so I applied to a teaching program with the British Council and ended up in Beijing in 2005. So getting ready for the Beijing Olympics and the city's changing, and yeah, a sort of opening up to the world, really. So yeah, the teaching didn't last very long. I wasn't great at that. I stuck it out for my contracted, obligated time. But yeah, I ended up staying for about 5 years. I passed the fluency exam, the HSK,
Mhm.
which was tough. But yeah, that I left in 2010, and I'll be honest, I'm not sure I've really ever used it since. Um, so I'm sure there'll be a fascinating study to do, like whether the vocab kind of exists in my mind. Could be dragged
Mhm.
out. Maybe I should sort of fire up Duolingo and see what's there. But yeah, it's one of those with life and family. I don't really have too much time to do that.
Fair enough. You said life and family. How big is your family? How
Oh,
many kids do you have? Married,
I
not married?
yeah, two kids, 8 and 6. So they're starting to become a little more independent now, sort of pushing the boundaries a bit, seeing what they can get away with. So yeah, that's all good fun.
Which one's your favourite?
Oh my goodness, my wife. That was be the yeah, the political
Oh,
answer.
I should have
Yeah.
specified which one's your favorite out of the two
Oh, wow,
kids.
the two kids. My goodness. Yeah. They're yeah, they are about as different as they come, really. There's the boy is very stereotypically, um, you know, he loves his sort of nerdy books and maths. He's got into coding at school and things like that. So he really enjoys that and his own company and reading. Whereas yeah, the girl's all about dance and performance and all these wonderful creative things. That's so yeah, that's good.
That's cool. Okay. All right. I will steer the conversation more to the professional stuff because you're an expert in your field, so it makes sense to ask you expert-based questions. All right. So you've done a lot of work in the field of journalism, specifically around accountancy and tech. What specifically drew you to the finance industry? I mean, you kind of mentioned it before. And what specifically drew you to accounting tech / fintech?
Yeah, it was a funny one, really. So, I mean, when I came home from China in 2010, it was the aftermath of the financial crisis. So, I'd join a publication, it would go bust, or I did all sorts like hotel magazines, events magazines. Yeah,
Hmm.
and I sort of gradually found myself I'd either be made redundant or the publication would fold, and eventually I ended up at Accounting Web through a friend of a friend. I'd done business journalism before, but that's the top end of the sort of funnel. If you talk about niche journalism, the trades, you sort of ended up at Accounting Web as their business editor, so writing up business stories for finance directors, CFOs, that kind of thing. And then yeah, I found myself sort of going up the ladder and became editor after a bit, and then yeah, joined ICAW for a couple of years to sort of head up their member comms publication, ICAW Insights, and then yeah, I realized I'd been running like a daily email for about 7 years, and I was just really tired. Like it's a proper aircraft control.
Yep.
You're bringing the stories into land. You're trying to find new writers, find contributors that are doing that on a daily basis, and you get this churn. And so actually I really wanted to focus on something. I'd always enjoyed writing about technology. I'd always been a sort of secret tech nerd, and so actually being able to do that full time, or as full time as I can be, it's yeah. I rejoined Accounting Web in 2022. Yeah, beginning of 2022. So yeah, I'm very privileged to be able to do that.
Okay, so as a self-professed secret tech nerd, how techie are you in your personal life? Are you like a bit of a magpie, like your car is kitted out, your kitchen's got ridiculous tech or gadgets, or you're not a gadget person in your personal life?
Ooh, yeah. I think like I wouldn't have a gadget for everything per se, but like I've really enjoyed kitting out, the getting all the microphone and the headphones and everything like this for the videos and the podcasts, and yeah,
I can
that's been a
relate.
lot of fun. That's been a lot of fun. Yeah, just kicking the tires on different technologies there. But yeah, no, the car I find quite difficult. I've driven a number of different things, but I find with the cars, the more stuff there is there, the more you can go wrong. So yeah, no, we have a very standard sort of Ford C-Max, I'm afraid. So yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Okay. I keep saying I'll take it back to the professional, and I keep asking you personal questions. I'm sorry. I'm just meandering as I go.
It's all good.
All right. Would you like a tech-based question or a journalism-based question?
Oh, let's go journalism. Yeah, that's fun.
Okay. How do you, as a qualified and trained journalist or someone who's edited and works with words, deal with the rise of social media in so much as there are people like me who just write stuff and it's probably bad English and probably very badly sourced versus, the actual journalism integrity where you've got to write in a certain way to convey your ideas. How do you deal with that kind of I'll say opposition, but that different field of news or sourcing information.
Yeah, the citizen journalist. Yes, um,
Hmm.
I find it fascinating. There are huge pros and huge cons to it, I guess. But the toothpaste's out of the tube. I mean, there's very little that can be done about um, that side of things. But I I think I kind of welcome it from a perspective of someone who 20 years ago, trying to get into journalism was a nightmare. It was just one of the most gate kept, not really even profession. I would personally always call it a trade because you just have to keep doing it. You know, it's something that you just learn on the job and keep working at. Like I've managed kids who've been at university and done journalism degrees, and they really struggle to source a show. They really struggle to you know, find leads or find stories and sort of get to the heart of it. You just pitch yourself in and get going, I think. But yeah, it was really hard. And I remember 20 years ago, sort of writing to people and having meetings and things, and these old journalists would sort of, oh no, it's a terrible time to get into journalism. You really don't want to do that, and so you just have to um, keep on persevering, keep on pushing through, and yeah. Whereas now, I think there are so many more platforms where someone who has a way with words or has a talent for communication is able to get themselves across. They might be able to make as much money as someone who'd made it 20 years ago. You need that talent for monetization as well, with it if you're going to make a living out of it. But yeah, it is fascinating the way that information isn't gate kept in the same way. But a massive downside would be that you have this sort of huge slew of disinformation out there, and it's very hard. Um, and I think possibly, I mean, schools do teach this, but I think it possibly should be more emphasis put on finding, reliable sources and working out what's correct and what's not. So
I agree. I think schools should teach more kind of critical thinking. I
mm,
think our education system is ever so slightly out of date. It's great for sharing and retaining information if someone's brain is wired that way. But I think there's a lot of young people that maybe don't, again, basic fact checking. I'm not talking about, opening an encyclopedia and reading, the nth degree
mm,
of a source or a study, but just like, questioning where the information's come from and who might be saying it is a skill that I think is lacking.
no, no,
So that's not what you're saying, but I'm inclined to agree.
yeah,
Um,
no, I like it. I mean, I had this. Yeah, I think I can't remember after like the second or third time I got made redundant. I decided it should mean something. So I went and did a PGCE in English secondary school teaching, and you know, I did the year. I got the qualification. It was pretty tough. I was sort of
but
part time, but it just I was completely. I'd worked in the real world by then and realized how hard a job it was. I've got huge respect for any educational professionals out there, but yeah, the degree of paperwork was mind blowing. The systems sort of ancient and creaking, and yeah, there's some incredibly challenging behavior out there as well. So it was. I mean, I again huge respect to anyone willing to do it, but it was kind of interesting. Of the 17 people on my course, like 14 were straight out of university, three of us had worked in the real world or had other jobs, and yeah, us the three oldies just all jacked it in. So that was tough, but
am I right in saying? Sorry.
no, I think with but that year I was there, I think Michael Gove's sort of changes had come in, his time in education. So he was very keen that we all read English literature, memorizing Tennyson and things like that. Just, yeah, the element of critical thinking I found sorely lacking. So yeah.
Mm. So with the PGCE, I believe you've got to do some time in placement, right? You've got to be in school.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you have any funny stories from when you were in placement and in school that you can share?
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, the final test I did, and it was one of those. I I got on really well with the kids as individuals, but standing up and performing for sort of 4 hours a day, I found totally exhausting. And they they sense weakness, don't they? They smell blood, and no, like my final test, the final exam. Well, obviously not an exam, but my supervisor came in from the university to watch me teach a lesson, and I was like, okay, so let's just would it be all right? My supervisor's coming in tomorrow, so can we have a really good lesson? Oh yeah, definitely. And yeah, so it's, lovely lady sat at the back. I start with the register, and a couple of the troublemakers had cooked up a scheme where they'd just answer with a swear word. And so it's like, oh, you little toe rags, So
That's
it's
not
a
helpful. That's not helpful
disciplinary
at all.
a disciplinary thing just to start the lesson off nicely. Okay, I'm really sorry, but outside, I'll talk to you in a minute. But yeah, it was that was tough. That was tough, and there were a couple of schools out in Wiltshire, like quite tough sort of working class sort of military background families. There was a lot of bad behavior. So yeah.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's bring it to fintech. Okay, my observation, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is there seems to be a big move for the SME space towards bundling. It seems like a lot of the bigger players are putting packages together. Do you know why this might be, and do you think it's a good idea?
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? So I think we had um I think going back to the sort of early 2000s, the sort of rise of the personal computer, and everyone's got the sort of desktop software installed on their computers or on their servers. And I think there was obviously a lot less choice, and
Mm.
that a lot of that came as a bundle, and it was quite expensive. And so when sort of SaaS cloud software, whatever you want to call it, sort of
Mm.
hit the market, 2010s, I guess, complemented with mobile phones, complemented with app ecosystems and things like that. That sort of contributed to this huge explosion in different apps. So I guess the thing that people always talk about is Craigslist. The Craigslist had one site that did.
Or if you're American, you say Craigslist because they say it
Oh
funny.
yes,
Craig.
they did. Yes,
Sorry.
yeah. You could get.
Yeah.
It was like sort of eBay, Bumble, message board. It did everything, didn't it? And then slowly, all the different services started to splinter, and people found specialized apps for that. And yeah, I think obviously doing one thing really well, I think was a good thing for a while. If you were a developer who spotted a problem, uh, then you could go and put in a piece of kit that filled that gap quite nicely and make a bit of money, and then sell it. But yeah, I think now, I mean, if you look at like the number of apps on your mobile phone, they talk about app overload, don't they? Overwhelm. I can't really think of the last app I installed on my phone, to be honest. I sort of try and get rid of them. I've got a plethora of different parking apps. That's another story. But
Yes, me too. It's annoying. So annoying.
yeah. So, and I think the same is true in the business world as well. And so everyone's sort of trying to keep their bills down. Because obviously these, if you've sold a business, and or you've acquired a business who's been ticking along quite nicely, but you might want to grow it, and so you'd add a couple more features to sort of round out. And so, you know, let's say a small business might have 4 or 5 different softwares, but their functionalities will sort of overlap. sometimes, and the bills just keep getting bigger as these softwares add more functionality, and so they sort of have to choose. So yeah, I guess it's a combination of things. It's sort of app overwhelm, it's cost, essentially, and I think people, what's the old Netscape CEO Jim Barksdale used to talk about that, didn't he? The only two ways to make money in software is bundling and unbundling, and it feels like we're in a bundling phase at the moment.
Well, I think we are, and I want to get your opinion on this. So Xero have pretty much just done it. Approval Max have done it or doing it, and as are Dex, and they're three big players in the UK SME fintech space. Like, just I'd love to know your opinion on them, like why they've done it, why do you think they've done it? Do you think it's good or bad that they're doing it? Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, three very different platforms. And I think, yeah, Zero is quite fascinating, really, to sort of watch them. They did absolutely expand into all areas, didn't they? They bought that. What did Waddle do? That was like sort of invoice finance or something, wasn't it? They did all sorts of weird and wonderful things, and I think the demands of shareholders, perhaps the demands of senior management now have changed. They focus on these sort of core strategies, don't they? The 3x3, the sort of core markets. The UK, Australia, and USA, and the sort of accounting, payments, and payroll, isn't it? That they're sort of trying to focus on, and so yeah, they are sort of concentrating on doing everything in those spaces. So we've seen a big expansion and contraption. Yeah. But yeah,
Or a contraption. Contraption's fine. Yeah.
But yeah,
I think there might be a slight delay, by the way, in our audio, because I'm talking and then you're kind of getting it 2 seconds later, or vice versa. So sorry for interrupting you if that happens.
no problem at all. Yeah.
What is the biggest change you've seen in the time you've been in the accounting fintech space, specifically with software?
Oh goodness, that is a good question. I think that more people, I think there is more education around it now. Like, I walk around the software hall, the halls at various conferences and things like that, and people are asking me quite detailed, in-depth questions. That it very much felt to me, I don't know, 10 years ago, whenever I joined AccountingWEB, it's like, Bob down the road's got his clients on Zero. We'd better do that. It very much felt like it was quite relationship based, and it still is to a certain extent. But I don't know. At Festival of Accounting and Bookkeeping, our show in March, I go around, people talk to me, and I think they're asking more questions about, okay, who, like, this new app that's appeared. Who are they? Are they bootstraps? Is there private equity money behind it? Are they going to sell in a few years' time? I think people are more aware of the journey now, I think, but because I think they're painfully aware, to be honest, because it's such a pain to get all your clients onto one piece of software, and then for that to be acquired or canned or rebranded or anything, and you've got to start the whole process again. So yeah, I think that there is more education in there, definitely. Just the way that people use these things in a lot more of an intelligent manner, I think.
Okay, going back to what you said about an event. You said an event in March. If I'm not mistaken, that's the Festival of Accounting and Bookkeeping. Why should I or anyone else in the UK sector go to FAB?
Oh, thank you for the opportunity to plug Fab. That's very kind of you. Yeah, I think there are a lot of really good events. I mean, the Institutes. Accountex digital accountancy show. What we try and do, as I say, we've got but is a sort of specific segment of bookkeepers who come along and join us as well, which is fantastic. But we really put an emphasis on the content. So the content team are involved from the ground up. We sort of build these things based on what we think our readers would really enjoy. And so it's actually really nice. There are sort of nice sort of networking areas. Obviously, we've got the sort of traditional stands, but we try and give people a bit more space, a few quiet areas, let people sit down. So no, it's what we try to do is to take the sort of accounting web atmosphere and kind of transplant that onto the show floor, as it were, to make it more of a community event.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a daft question now. If you were a biscuit, what kind of biscuit would you be that accurately portrays your personality, and why? But don't just pick your favorite biscuit.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Yeah. Let me think. Probably like a Tunnocks tea cake, perhaps. I don't know. I don't know for that purposes whether you consider that a biscuit or not, really. But yeah, I think perhaps I might have this sort of hard exterior. Perhaps people might think I would be a bit grumpy, or a sort of serious accounting tech journalist, but I'm a bit of a softie in the middle. So,
I mean, you don't come across as a grumpy kind of person. The first time I met you, granted it was at an event, and I don't know about you, but I've been drinking. But you seem pretty cool to me. Okay, follow-up question, and I'm going to split it in two parts. Who is your favorite fictitious journalist or character, and who is your journalistic inspiration? So a real person and a character who is a journalist that you like.
oh my goodness, wow! I mean, so many. I really enjoy. I really enjoy reading. I mean, things like I don't know, like Truman Capote's writing, like the Marlon Brando interview. I'd urge anyone to sort of seek that out. That's a fabulous bit of writing. Yeah. The name of the journalist escapes me now, but Frank Sinatra Has a Cold. That's a fantastic piece of sort of writing journalism as well.
What makes it so good? What makes it such good journalism? What enthuses you about it?
I think it just takes you. It sort of takes you into the moment, really. It takes you back into the sort of 60s and 70s. The sounds, the smells, the the personalities, the characters. I think that's great. That type of writing's always really inspired me, and it's been quite nice. We have as well as the reportage that we do of stuff that happens, we're allowed to we are allowed to sort of put opinion pieces on the site as well, where you can sort of bring in all kinds of weird and wonderful things. So I brought the world of country and western into accounting software recently, and I've brought in all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff over the years. So a fictional journalist. I'm trying to think off the top of my head if I can actually think of any fictional journalists. Yeah, there must be some.
Shall I guide you in that question?
Oh yeah, great.
So as a comic book geek, I like Spider-Man, I like Superman, and in those shows you've got characters like J. Jonah Jameson, you've got Clark Kent, he's a reporter, you've got Lois Lane, and that's where my mind was going. It was mostly comic book characters, but I guess there are other characters who are journalists in other mediums.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm guessing you don't have an answer for that one. That's fine, because that was a weird question. My next question is, in your industry of journalism, is there an overused word? And I'll give an example, right? In accounting, if you're an accountant, you'll probably say the word journal 1,000,000 times in a day. Journal it over. If you work in tech, you will say database, API. These are like buzzword bingos. So in journalism, are there certain words that just get used like every day without fail?
Yeah, I think every industry has its jargon. So I guess, as you said, if you sat in the office of an accounting firm or a tech company or the teacher's staff room or what have you, but yeah, sort of saying, like sub editing, oh yeah, can you give this a quick sub, just to sort of because we actually have a sub editor at the moment, which is lovely, as we used to just check each other's work and sort of put it on the site. But yeah, that would definitely be one of them. Yeah, a cheeky sub.
The sub,
Yeah.
the sub. Cheeky sub. Okay, because again, with my background in audio, I think of a subwoofer. But okay, it's a really dumb question. All right, this is me being a layman. What is a sub editor? What is an editor? What's the difference?
Oh yeah. So
I mean, I know what the word sub implies, but like, what actually is the difference?
Yeah, I think the editor. It's a funny one. It's kind of subtly different at every publication. Everywhere I've been an editor, I've had slightly different roles. But I guess the broad definition would be that the editor is making the editorial decisions. Deciding what to write, who writes it, when it's published. They would see the copy, they would see if they were happy with it and stuff, and sort of decide whether it's publishable. The sub editor, I think, has a very specific role in terms of checking the copy. So Wendy, who checks our copy, would just, not only make sure there are no typos or grammatical snafus, but she'd be checking that every link went to the correct place. She'd be checking if we're using brand names correctly. She'd be checking if there was some inconsistency in terminology that we're using. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Putting the like in the good old days of print, you'd have a sort of designer or a picture editor, but these days in our content management system, you just sort of get a picture from our picture library and slap it up there. So yeah, our sub editor in this case chooses the pictures as well. She's very fond of animal images. So there's a veritable barnyard on AccountingWEB most days. So yeah.
In her defense, people do love animals, and I'm sure they're attracted to the cute fuzzy pics.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What is the best gift that you've ever received from a vendor?
Oh yeah, that is a good one. Obviously, I need to declare everything over. Oh, I wouldn't declare a pen, but I think the level's about sort of £40 or £50. So yeah, that is
£50 usually.
That is bad. I've got my Sage mouse mat here that I use, that I probably used the most. But yeah, the kids have various accounting software water bottles as well. So we send my daughter to school with her fresh books. It might be clear books actually, her water bottle. And then I think my son's on the might be NetSuite at the moment. So yeah, there's all sorts of water bottles are weird and wonderful.
But what's the best thing you've received?
Oh,
what's the best thing you've received?
The best thing I've received. I did get a nice set of sort of branded that they weren't sort of Apple earbuds, but they were the sort of the ones you'd probably find for sort of 20 or 30 quid. But I hadn't used the type of earbud things before, so yeah, they're pretty good. Yeah.
Nice. What's the lamest vendor gift you've ever received?
Oh, the lamest. I
won't ask you which vendor it is because I know you want to hurt their feelings. But.
Yeah. I did. Yeah. There was a mug. There was a mug I got once from one particular accounting software vendor that I think it said something like saving a sheet load of work. which was a bit disappointing. You know, yeah, I'm not a fan of Excel bashing. So yeah,
You're not a fan of Excel bashing.
no, no, Excel
I think one of the
still the greatest software
go
ever
on, sorry, you were going to
produced.
say,
No, no, it's still the greatest software
is
ever
it?
produced. So
Is
yeah.
it? I mean, have you played Super Mario 64? I would argue that's better than Excel.
Ooh, okay. No, I haven't. Oh, I'll have to check that out.
Well, I would say any video game is better than Excel, but I'm very biased.
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
Okay, okay. I've asked you lots and lots and lots of questions. I think it's only fair. Do you have any particular questions for me?
Oh yes, I'd like to find out about your time in Estonia, Dale.
My time in Estonia. What specifically? What would you like to know? What have someone told you? Because there's two different stories.
Oh, I see. No, I can't remember. Because I went on holiday earlier this year. Every year, my sister and I um, go on a sort of weekend mini break to sort of get away from. No. Just a little break of life, not get away from the kids at all. I would never say that. But yeah, so
Uh-huh.
we picked Thailand this year, and I did, because I'm a massive nerd. Did meet up with the good folks at Uku, who are the sort of practice management firm. But yeah, I think I mentioned it in one of my videos, and I think you commented about maybe a way. No, it's my out of office. I'm telling a lie. It wasn't the
It was
video.
out of
It
office.
was my out of office. I put a funny, is it tare or something like that? You say to say hi, and you kind of added a bit more onto that explanation, as it were. So yeah, I thought, oh, that's a Dale. So I did do a little bit of LinkedIn stalking, and found you'd spent a bit of time there. So I was just interested in, I probably should have asked you at the event rather than hijacking you on your own
No, it's
show.
fine.
But yeah.
It's fine. Hijack away. So I will answer your question. Before I do that, I'm just going to go into the comments. Andrew Ward has mentioned Streets of Rage
Oh,
2.
what a game.
If you don't know, that's a video game. Oh, so you played it?
Definitely Streets of Rage. I have a feeling that was a sort of ZX Spectrum, was it? Something like that.
It was on the Mega Drive,
Mega
I
Drive,
think.
was it?
It was on the Mega
Okay.
Drive.
What's the one? No, Double Dragon was on the Spectrum, wasn't it? Yeah. I think that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so just so clear, you're a retro gamer, so you haven't played Super Mario 64, but you've played some old school 2D scrollers.
Yeah, I mean, my dad was a teacher, so he brought the old BBC Micro home from school in the summer holidays, and so we'd play like Chucky Egg and Kong and things like that. And then yeah, there's all kinds of weird and wonderful things. We weren't allowed a Spectrum ZX, but my friend had one. Yeah, Mega Drive. Apologies, Andrew. Yeah.
Andrew Ward, Mega Drive.
But yeah, no, I think my last console was probably the Super Nintendo, which I think is still up in the.
I think Tom has gone again. I mean, hopefully it's Tom and not me. I'm just going to keep talking for a little bit. I'm going to go to the comments. Andrew, thank you for commenting, by the way. What's his next comment? Andrew Ward, double thrilling dragon. Tom can stay. You've made it, Tom, when you get the Andrew Ward seal of approval. Are you back? By
Yes,
the
I
way?
am. I don't know what
Good to
happened there. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
I didn't answer your question. So my time in Thailand. So I worked for a startup company called Centab many, many moons ago, and they were based in Estonia, specifically Tallinn. And they'd already got a pretty good, well, somewhat market in Estonia. And they were looking to come to the UK market, and I helped them with that. It was a really cool device. It was called the Centab Box, and it enabled people to make video calls through their TV, and it was aimed at the time at older adults. The idea being, if they want to do video calls, they're not very good. Certain people weren't very good with smartphones, and the idea is, the big screen. They can just press a button, and the family can call them on the screen. High resolution, and it had a really cool overlay function, so you could plug it in, and if they had something like Sky, or whatever, it could pass through, and you could set it so that if a family member called, it could disrupt the TV show and overlay the video call, and then when they stopped it would go back to the TV show they're watching. It was a very cool device.
That sounds brilliant.
Had a lot of fun. And it meant I was in Thailand a few times. So yeah.
What? Yeah, are they still around, or is that on the old digital scrap
Um,
heap?
no, I mean, so they had to scale back to Estonia, hence why I'm not still working for them. They kind of repurposed the box, so they realised that not everyone wanted video calls because this is pre-pandemic, by the way, so they're slightly ahead of their time.
Yeah.
But what they did is they added a health layer to it, so you could connect a blood pressure cuff, and the idea being instead of an older adult or elderly person who might be infirm having to go down, get a taxi to their GP or whatever to get a blood test, or not blood test, a blood pressure, they could use the cuff at home, and the box could record their metrics and stats, and the doctor or the nurse, whoever, could review that from the office. So again, saving time for like the healthcare system in Estonia and potentially in the UK. They're still going under a different brand name, but with those kind of health metrics, and they're now using it for what do you call it? Counselling and therapy. So again, online therapy through the box, through the video calls.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to know?
Oh, I've seen you. Sort of with your guitar, sort of shredding from time to time. Were you ever in a band, Dale?
I was in a band. It was such a cliche name when I was like maybe 12 or 13. We called it Staged Coincidence. We recorded 2 songs and they were both trash, but we put them on our MySpace page and we thought they were awesome at the time. And thankfully, that MySpace page no longer exists.
Oh, that's a shame. Yeah, yeah. I was reading something about how the sort of in the internet age, the sort of half-life of knowledge is now sort of gradually, well, not even gradually, sort of dramatically disappearing. Because I I don't know. Just as a journalist, for example, I mean, if AccountingWEB, if someone were to pull the plug on AccountingWEB, I mean, that's thousands of articles that I've written just gone. And in the past, I had my little portfolio where things I'd published in newspapers or magazines, and I'd sort of go and cut out, my interview with Bjorn Borg, or the guy who did the special effects in Lord of the Rings and things like that. And I had all these sort of magazine clippings that I'd laminated and put in the book, and that was really nice. Whereas, yeah, the ability to get information out there is fantastic, but also it can. And I know you have things. Goodness, I've forgotten the name of it. The thing that backs up. It's supposed to sort of back up all parts of the internet, and I've forgotten it. But yeah,
I know what you mean.
yeah,
I know
yeah,
what you mean.
yeah.
But can we go back a step? Hold on. The 2 things you just mentioned. So is that a name drop? Did you actually interview Bjorn Borg?
I did. It was I was working in
That's really cool.
I was working in Chengdu in southwest China, in Sichuan, and I was editor of an events magazine. It was a sort of monthly. That was it was a lot of fun. But the yeah, they decided to put on one of these masters tennis tournaments where they invite all the old legends. So we had like Bjorn Borg and John McEnroe and Pat Cash, and people like that come and
Wow.
play a bit of tennis. And so they said, do you want to interview Bjorn Borg? I was like, yeah, of course I do. That sounds fantastic. So yeah, I got to have a chat with him for sort of 10 or 15 minutes. He was lovely. He answered all my questions. He sort of took a picture with our magazine, which was really nice. And so it was great. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean, that leads to my next question. I've got to ask you. Sorry, who is the most famous or notable person you've ever interviewed?
I mean, Bjorn Borg comes close, and I did interview John McEnroe as well, very briefly, but he was in a very bad mood because he just lost, and so he was.
He's always in a bad mood. That's his famous thing. He's smashing up rackets and swearing at the referee. That's his thing.
Yeah. So no, that wasn't so great. But no, I think that's that would probably be it, to be honest. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know, famous in accounting terms, but I've interviewed lots of treasury secretaries and things like that. Your David Gawks and your Mel Strides, but yeah, not anyone super famous. No.
who's the funniest person you've interviewed? You've had the most enjoyable kind of patter back and forth.
Ooh, the funniest. Yeah. Uh, that is a good question. The so yeah, again in Chengdu, I went. There was like a sort of exhibition there of the chap who it was essentially all the sort of props and makeup, sort of costumes, should I say, from the Lord of the Rings films. So they had the orcs and they had the swords. They brought the Oscars to the exhibition actually, and yeah, there was the chap there. Um, he was a sort of lovely Kiwi chap. I think they were called the Wetter Workshop. And the founder of that, I think his surname was Jackson, but I've totally forgotten his first name. But yeah, he was a lot of fun. He made my friend up. My friend is this sort of big bodybuilder at the time, and he basically they sat him in this chair and they made him look like one of the Uruk-hai from the Lord of the Rings films. So yeah, that was incredible, and got to hold an Oscar, and all sorts of fun things like that. So yeah.
Are they heavy in real life? Are they solid
Yeah,
metal?
they're
The
super
Oscars?
heavy. Yeah. They had like all 8 Oscars in this sort of suitcase. There was a bodyguard with them at all times. So yeah, that suitcase. The bodyguard did let me pull
Yeah,
the suitcase up and down in the pub after the event. So yeah.
that's really cool. That's really cool. All right, I think we're wrapping up. We're drawing things to a close. I've got 2 questions. One is, what advice would you give to a young person entering into the field of journalism? And the second question is, what kind of golden nugget truth bomb do you want to drop as we end this show?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, the first question I guess would just be to write as much as humanly possible. Read as much as you can, write as much as you can, write for anyone. Um, uh, I think even at my even at my relatively I think I was in my 30s when I got to AccountingWEB, and even then, like working for the chap who was our editor in chief at the time, John, he taught me a great deal. So keep an open mind, and try and learn. Everyone's got something to teach. Perhaps that can be my truth bomb as well. Everyone's got something to teach. Even if they might appear like a sort of awkward devil. But yeah.
Cool. On that note, I want to say thank you very much for joining me. It has been fun talking to you. Hopefully, we can do it again sometime. But yeah, if you just hold your smile for like 2 seconds, because when we hit end stream, it kind of like lingers for a little bit. There we go. Fantastic. End stream.